Hello, everybody. It's 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗀𝗲. I'm joined today by a really good friend of mine, John DeSouza, who has just done such tremendous work. He's an author, former FBI agent. There's so much to share about him. First, before I get into a little bit more about him, I want to thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, thank you, Laura. It is awesome to be here with you today, to be able to just spend a little bit of time with you. You know, we're always together on conferences and things like that. And that doesn't really give us any time to really communicate one-on-one like we are here. So this is a really nice treat for me here.
Oh,
Thanks.
awesome. Gosh, we've had some great adventures and times. And oh my goodness. So it's so wonderful to have this one-on-one time with you. And also, John DeSouza is going to be a speaker at an upcoming conference called Unveiling Galactic Heritage and Unlimited Human Potential. It's May 16th to 18th, and it's a 3-day event, and you can have constant replays. And it's a really good thing to have constant replays of, because this is really, really valuable information that's going to help one to navigate in these crazy times. And people that have been doing the level of research that John has and his knowledge base with the paranormal and just all sorts of topics, being sort of the real X-Files person, his information is unbelievably valuable. So let me tell you a little bit more about him, and then I gotta just share a quote about Ascension, and the title of this, which is also the title of his talk about Ascension through Investigation, I believe it's called. So anyway, John DeSouza is FBI Special Agent, retired, investigator for 25 years, and collector of the real-life X-Files. Today, he's revealing these stories, UFOs, FBI investigations, unexplained mysteries, and the paranormal. John DeSouza is today releasing these true stories and changing our understanding of reality as a leading investigator in the paranormal and in exopolitics. So what I love, you have such a great quote here. You say, "My calling is to show people they already have what they need to ascend. The first and greatest lie has been exploded, that this material facade is all there is. Next, we must awaken to our own supernatural abilities. These abilities must then be joined to faith and belief. Faith and supernatural abilities will then determine everything in life and beyond." Oh my goodness. Every conference, presentation, book, and appearance are done for this calling. So, I mean, this is his intent that goes into everything he does. Accordingly, I call upon your love to make this calling possible. Support this mission and show some love. He's got a donation. Yeah, I mean, please, support this
Yeah,
kind of
it
work.
says at the end there, and send money, by the way.
Oh yeah, I mean, come on, donation. It's like you work for the people, and so it only makes sense to have people contribute when they can. But the thing is, you still put it out there, whether you get it or not, or if, it's not. You do so much just out of the goodness of your heart, and because it's your mission, and it's not all money driven. But yeah, I mean, this is not like it's coming from another paycheck, and you have to be able to eat and take care of yourself, and you've just been in immense service. So. I love this about this quote, because, I mean, in these times when people are thrown into fear and they don't really see that they have a whole lot of options, I mean, it only makes sense that the next level would be to have this great breakthrough to access the rest of our abilities. Can you kind of like go into that a bit, and this, the title about investigation into Ascension, I think is called, or you can correct
Yes,
me on that. And just,
yes.
yeah, just kind of, especially in these times and the challenges that we're finding ourselves in trying to navigate this.
Yeah, the conference that we're doing May 16th through the 18th coming up, I I feel like it says it's unveiling galactic heritage, unlimited human potential. I feel like the title should just be unveiling ascension, because that's largely what they're saying there in that title. So that's why I made my presentation is going to be called Ascension Through Investigation, which is the way I know how to do things, how to achieve things, and get to certain goals in our lives. So I'm going to be in my talk. I'm going to be delineating the I would say, and I've been doing a lot of this in Japan recently, where I just wrote like 2 books in Japan, and that have been very popular over there, and they're all basically they're titled "The Truth Is Out There," uh, and they're all basically about the same thing, about the superpowers and super abilities that we all have, that are basically our way in to ascension, the way that we are going to go forward with Ascension. And in my area, one of those powers is para investigation, or being a para seer, which is an ascension through investigation, being able to look through situations and get to the actual truth of those situations. And then a second way that we can achieve ascension is, for me, is actually through clear hearing. Clear hearing, which is another book that I wrote, which is clear hearing, the ability to receive and receive that great voice that's always trying to reach out for us, the great voice of clarity, authority, that is really from our higher self, which is a really poor way of describing an extraordinary cosmic truth. So that's the second way that I explain always, how our super ability that we can use to get to ascension. And then, of course, the third way is through extra dimensionality, because we are all extra dimensional in our own ways. The same way that I always put forward that alien visitors are extra dimensional, and of course, and that's the real truth about them. They're not physical; they are actually extra dimensional, and there's a lot involved with that. So those are the three abilities and the three really superpowers that we all have access to, and that I'll be speaking on when I give my talk, which is Ascension through Investigation, and that's what I'm going to be talking about.
Nice. And the discernment, I mean, there's so much misinformation, there's so much trickery and imposters, and when people sometimes connect to those other realms, they can be, somewhat deceived. And having that piece called investigation connected to it, just, I think it really helps a person to kind of pause and be like, well, wait a second. One has to kind of decipher what is benevolent and what isn't. And like you said, connecting with the higher mind gives one the internal guidance to be able to sort of have that instinct of, maybe I should protect myself, or, this actually feels safe because these different things are taking place that are reassuring, instead of just blindly giving one's power away. Because what we're seeing on Earth seems to be happening also in the lower dimensions, as far as like archons and demons. So can you kind of help us to, or what is your take on when you look at like the deep state and, maybe the connection to demonic energies, or things that are not something we clearly see, that are a part of dark agendas, and even maybe more malevolent type beings or ETs?
Yeah.
Like how to get through this threshold. And if a person makes detrimental decisions out of fear, do you feel that the power of spirit is able to correct those mistakes if a person wakes up despite the choices?
Yeah, through ourselves, they're able to correct that if we actually put forward the effort to do better for ourselves, and to overcome this system that we're in right now. We're in a system that is being repeated. They say, there's a great saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it actually does echo over and over and over again. And and that's what we're seeing now. We are now in a totalitarian global state, where we are having, everything is being controlled, and there's deception is complete across the board, in all the major areas of life. And those major areas are economy, financial, political, and cultural. Those are the three main areas where absolute deception is reigning over us. And so it's like the Soviet Union of 1980s again, all over again. And it's unbelievable. But a lot of people just aren't aware. They aren't aware of the level of deception that they're living in. So they're not even aware of the basic fundamental truths that you just pointed out, Laura, that they are living in this archonic reality, where these things are so much is being controlled by these archonic figures, these elitists, these elite powers in control, that are just maneuvering and manipulating every area. in politics, in economics, in finance, in culture as well. And so that's why what I always try to bring to people is this device that I call case investigation. Case is an acronym. It's an acronym CAIS, CAIS, which is an acronym that stands. It gives a person a method to be able to examine any area, any mystery or unknown area where we are being deceived. And in order to use this device, all you need is to be in an area where there's total deception is facing you. And we all know we're in that area right now. If you turn on the news, if you look at anything that's a mainstream source of news or of culture, then you are facing total deception. And the case investigation system that I just cited, that I'm going to teach people how to use, it's completely based on, it can only be used in a system that is complete totalitarian deception from top to bottom. And that's what we're facing today in so many areas.
So when you say it can only be used, like, help us to understand that a little bit better. Like, you're saying that this is a helpful tool that is best used kind of when needed most. It sounds like a positive.
I'm saying if you live in a society where you are being told the truth about everything that's going on, things that are happening, then the case investigation system is completely inappropriate. You can't use it. It doesn't work because once you see it, you'll know why. Because it's based on devices that are solely intended to uncover hidden truth, truth that is being taken away from your sight so that you can't know what's really going on. And so that's what the case investigation system is for. That's why it's very appropriate for us to use it today.
Right.
That's why.
But in their eyes, it's something to be censored, or, I mean, and so this is something you teach, correct?
Yes, exactly. And that's what I teach. And that is what helps people to understand what it is that we're living in. Case investigation stands for, I wish I could share screen here on some stuff.
Yes. I will make you a co-host and then you can.
Ooh, that would be really cool.
Yeah.
Because then I could actually go to, let me see here. I could go to, and I could actually show Ascension through investigation. John DeSouza will be showing real proof on how to decode the present fake reality, because we are being imprisoned in a fake reality that is slowly closing in on us and extinguishing our rights. You know, we are having right now a situation where we are being told that we are in a medical situation, where people are being helped. I almost said held hostage. They're being helped by our medical authorities on medical issues. Well, that's a complete deception, of course. And how do I know that? Because they are bringing into the medical situation, they are bringing coercion into that medical situation, which changes it completely. That means when you have a medical situation where where institutions are trying to coerce you, to force you, to mandatory you into non-existence, where they are trying to make you do something, whether it's medical or not, doesn't matter. But then it becomes an issue of tyranny. It's no longer a medical issue at all. And you know who told me that? Of all people, the person who told me that was Governor 𝗷𝗶𝗱𝗲 of I forgot what state she was from. She's from Governor 𝗷𝗶𝗷𝗲 She's a Republican governor. And she said this the other day on mainstream news. She said she was asked why she doesn't force people in her state to do this or do that, and she said because it's not a medical issue. People are free to do whatever they want to if they want to. If they want to go and put something on their face or put something in their veins, then they're free to do so. But the moment that I, as governor, or an institution, an airline, a restaurant chain, the moment that these institutions tell you, hey, you better do this medical issue or else you can't come in here. You can't use our service. We're not going to fly you. We're not going to feed you. We're not going to let you shop here. The moment that happens, that's no longer a medical issue. It's got nothing to do with medicals. It's got nothing to do with health. It has to do with tyranny. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. And people have to wake up to this fact, because this is common sense. This is not rocket science, what I'm saying to you. This is fundamental rights stuff. And people need to realize this. The moment institutions or government gets involved with these things, then it becomes something very evil, regardless of what the purpose is. And that is what we need to teach people a way to get to that conclusion. Because when they get to that conclusion, they're going to realize, oh my goodness, something's wrong here. Something's completely off. And that's going to help to decide their actions. And it's going to change everything that they do. And that's what we need to help them with.
Right.
Because it's so very important.
Right. It's helping to free their minds from it, their creative energy from it, and then they're flowing with a completely different frequency and connection, like you said, to higher mind and something much greater than us that helps us to begin to awaken our greater abilities, which is not possible as long as we're under that tyranny and control because we think it actually cares about us or something. And it is common sense. I don't know. I'm sort of shocked at seeing how many people just kind of are going along with it and not recognizing the obvious, because this has nothing to do with rabbit holes or being red pilled. This is like common sense, and it's in our face. And the inconsistencies and hypocrisy, I don't know. I mean, it is waking a lot of people up. But anyway, you're ready on my to be able to share a screen if you want to take us in a little bit more to
Ooh. Okay, let me just see where I am over on this other screen first and see what I can do here.
Do you feel like
Go ahead, what'd you say?
Do you feel like the dark agenda, I mean, it was inevitable, it was going to roll out, and it just sort of needs to expire as we're in the showdown of forces. It needs to sort of exhaust itself, and it's sort of a test right now, and we have to, just kind of overcome it. And it was an inevitable thing that we'd be sort of facing, maybe not to the degree that, I don't know. I don't know if this has been more shocking to you than anything, but do you know what I mean? Like, do you feel like
I know exactly what you mean.
Itself for this other thing to rise?
I know exactly what you mean, because everything has basically changed in the last, I would say probably about the last year or so. Everything has changed, and not because the dark agenda wasn't there. We've been in this dark agenda since 1908, for the United States and the whole Western world, basically. As soon as the Federal Reserve Bank was created, as soon as all of the wealthy elites who were against the federal bank were all killed with those free cruise line ships aboard the Titanic. I was told all about that by my grandfather, who lived through it at the time, and he told me exactly why those people were killed aboard the Titanic, so that the other elites who went on a different cruise to a different island, they actually were able to set up the illegal Federal Reserve central banks here in the United States, and also the IRS. Federal Reserve can't exist without the IRS. And together, those two institutions were able to destroy our economy and destroy and take ownership over us as chattel, basically. So this agenda has been going on since it's strong in the Western world since 1908 because it's sprouted a lot of other branches since then as well. But what's happened recently is that this agenda is because the cabal, the elite powers in control, they are multi-generational, and this plan was for like the next 100 years. What happened was that because of the white hats and Trump and others fighting back and intending very much to go against this agenda, they have had to accelerate their program completely, everything. I mean, and they're not gambling people. You know, the Rothschilds and these people, they are not gambling people. But because of what the white hats have done in the last 8 years or so to destroy their agenda, to take away the child trafficking and all the other things that I can't mention on YouTube. Because of that, they have decided to completely let all of their agenda, all of their dogs of war go forward. And that is why we're seeing this medical tyranny being pushed forward on all of us, because it's their number one way to try to achieve complete control over the entire population. And when I say control, I mean to control in the way that you control prisoners and slaves. That's what they're trying to achieve. They tried to achieve it with global warming and climate change. That is purely a doctrine for the elites to take control over the poor people and keep them down. That they've been trying that for like the last 20 years, and it's been a complete failure. So now they have basically put that on the back burner, and now this medical tyranny is now their new way to try to spread and put forward all of their stuff and to try to take over our freedom, basically, and extinguish all of our rights, because the only place on the earth that has more rights for its people than anywhere else was the United States. And I say that very purposefully, was. And so that's what we're looking at right now.
And do you feel they're really succeeding in achieving their goals? I mean, we're talking about millions, some have even said 1 billion that have gotten the you know what, and we're going to be careful with the words that we say, but I'll just do the sign language here.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, you know, and the fact that, you know, people even after getting that are still willing to wear their muzzle. And I mean, do you feel they've gotten a foothold and we're going to have to endure watching this be played out, and it's going to be incredibly distressful for the next couple of years? Or do you somehow feel that there might be just something that can turn it all around? Or are we sort of on this trajectory? Did we slip into a timeline that we could have avoided? I mean, how do you process this on a daily basis? I know these are big questions, but
You know, it's so hard, Laura, because I know you've been going through the same thing that I've been going through, which is seeing friends and extended family, at least extended family members accepting the medical tyranny into their own lives and going ahead and getting what the tyrants want them to get. And even though they know it's wrong, and they know people like you and me who are advising them, informing them, and they still will go out and give in to the medical tyranny, and and get themselves muzzled and get themselves jabbed, and it's just unbelievable. It's happening all around us, and it's happening with people who should know better,
right.
And it's so frustrating. It's like you just want to cry, because it's so sad.
I know. Gosh, that's for so many people, the ups and downs are just, you know, finding oneself just like having to release and process things emotionally, and then, you know, the call to action as well. So where was I going to go with that? I know you have some slides to show us, but yeah, I mean, when we see that, I guess we just have to kind of let go and accept. I mean, do you feel this is reversible? Do you feel this is really the bifurcation? Do you see some sort of disclosure that will bring in highly advanced technologies? I mean,
I think that's so funny that you said those things, because I hope people listen very carefully every word that you say, because everything that you just named is exactly going to happen. We're going to have a terrible Holocaust. We're going to lose a lot of people, um, and there's no way around it. We are, and we're gonna go into a bifurcation where we're going to become like two races of people. We're going to become the pure, natural, organic people who have not given in to medical tyranny, no matter what, and we're going to be the true humans that are left. And then you're going to have the other people, all the people who have given in, who have muzzled, who have jabbed, taken the jab, and they're going to become something else, something else. And yeah, it's going to be a bifurcation, and it's going to be a tragedy, because we're going to lose a lot of people.
it's
And
devastating.
I don't see a way around it. I mean, I don't, not right now, but maybe like you just, like the last thing you said, maybe there will be some miracle of technology where later we'll be able to still save all those people. I don't know.
Yeah, or at least the ones that are like, what did I do? You know, I regret
Yeah,
this, and I
yeah,
want to heal,
right,
and I don't want
right,
to lose my connection with source, and I've
right.
done the research, and now I realize the mistake I've made. I feel like those people are on the trajectory of like being aligned with synchronicities or support to help them. But the ones that just really go further into the enslavement, the unconsciousness, and the disconnect, they wouldn't really
Yeah.
probably know to correct. So I feel like they're sort of the somewhere in the middle. But when you hear about like those that didn't get it being affected by those that did, and that we have to be
Oh
careful
yeah,
around them, what I mean, and you being like a top
yeah.
investigator kind of mentality, being able to sift through, you know, truth and misinformation, what are you feeling when you hear that kind of news about the
Well,
whole?
that's yeah. I don't know if people know about this yet, because this is a pretty new development. It's becoming apparent to many people that those who go ahead and get themselves jabbed, they are apparently, once they do that, it looks like they are going through a condition that real doctors, real scientists call shedding. Scientists who are telling us the truth. They said that these people are shedding and possibly getting unjabbed people sick as well. And so this is a whole new dimension to this thing, uh, because it means that these people are actually a danger, are possibly a danger to the people to the pure human beings who are still left. So we're gonna have to stay on top of that, and keep monitoring that, because we're coming up with all kinds of anecdotal evidence. Anecdotal evidence, by the way, is the most important kind of evidence,
Right.
because it has real connection to real human beings.
Right.
And so anecdotal evidence is actually much more important than statistical evidence, because statistical evidence is just a bunch of numbers.
Right.
So people have to learn these are basic investigative truths that people need to learn. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that
Uh-huh.
was something new, Laura. I don't know if even your audience knows about that yet, but we need to tell them. We need to tell people that you
Yeah.
got to look into this, and you got to research it. You got to research it with so many of these honest doctors are coming forward.
Yeah.
People that still have their medical licenses, and
Oh,
they're coming forward and telling us these things, right?
yeah, I've been sending the articles on Telegram. So everybody, I'm losing a lot of my platforms. If you sign up for Telegram, I share a lot of these, you know, kind of articles, and they are top-notch doctors and experts. And the thing is, what I don't understand, for the last decade or more, when people use the term conspiracy theories and they don't realize that whistleblowers and victims have been speaking out at an unbelievable rate, that how can one just toss it over there anymore? I mean, because it's so obvious and clear. And you know, in the work that you've done being an investigator, making such a strong point about, you know, listening to the cases and following the stories of the real people. That's what's been happening in a lot of ways, especially with somebody like you who has a background in that. And still, it just flies over somebody's people's head. It's like, do you know who this man is? And like, no.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
amazing. Like the credibility of doctors, experts, and people like yourself, and people still would rather look towards ones that are associated with depopulation and have obviously have links to some very nefarious things. It's just, again, I could just keep going on and asking questions. I need to shut up and I want to see your slides. But I could just ask you questions and just.
No. That's good, Laura, because I want to. It's more important. You know, people want to hear your questions because you know you have many subscribers on your channel, and your people, they want to hear what you're thinking as questions, because that's their thoughts too. That's what they're thinking. So no, that's much more important that I hear from you. But I did want to, you know what I did want to do too is I wanted to tell you a quick story that I've always wanted to tell you, Laura, but I've never gotten like a moment alone with you to be able to just tell you this story, and let me know if I already started this story with you, because I may have. But anyway, it's a story from my book, 𝗓𝗶𝗀𝗲 Investigators. Okay, and it's a story called "Swallowed by the Darkness," and it's I'll just tell you real quick. There was when I was about 18 years old, my mom had a boyfriend who was a guy she actually just started going out with him, and he and his wife were he was a high executive at New York City Hotel Corporation, which was where my mom was working at that time also. So that's how they met. But he was a widower, and he lived in a he was married. He was a part of a couple that called themselves demonologists. They were famous demonologists, okay, this couple. And his name was Phil. His name
Are
was
they
actually Phil.
a few movies that have been out, or is that couple? Or
I don't believe they were that couple,
okay, anyway,
because I don't believe they were that couple, but they're very much like that couple. It was really strange because his name was Phil. And the guy from that couple was, I believe his name was Ed, I believe. But anyway, but the timing does work out that he could have been that guy. But anyway, his wife had just a couple of years before disappeared. So he was a widower. Several years before, she had disappeared. Okay, and I mean disappeared, not a murder or anything, just gone, just like that. Okay, so he had her declared. It had been 7 years. He had her declared dead, and then he wrote another book about her disappearance. He said it was caused by demons, basically coming back to get revenge on her, and that's what he said. So anyway, my mom this one time took me to his home. It was in Connecticut. Like New England area. And he lived in this big stone mansion. It was like a big gray stone mansion. It looked like a little castle. I'd never seen anything like that up until that time. And it was just, so we went in, and he gave us the tour. Oh, well, no, he actually, just the first floor. He gave us the tour of just the first floor. And then he'd send us around. We spent some time in there. He was very dapper gentleman, very dapper. He wore a suit and tie, a jacket and tie, in his own home when he's just tweed. He wore tweed when he's just laying around his own home. So he was kind of he seemed like an old money, kind of blue blood Caucasian kind of guy. I mean, if you know that type, and well, you definitely do know that type. And so so that's what he kind of came across as. But then halfway through, he tells me and my mom, he says, hey, I am also and he said this word to indicate an expert in horoscope. And he actually said, I'm an ancient, and he said this word like an ancient necromancy expert. He used some kind of ancient word, Vedic something something. It was as to indicate that he was a horoscope expert, and he was interested in reading my stuff, basically, me, and, because he asked my mother if he wanted her if she wanted him to read hers, and she was like, no, absolutely not, absolutely not, no, read my son's, definitely. And so I was like, okay, I'll sit down. And then he sat down at the table, actually took off his jacket, which I didn't think I'd see him do, and he took his jacket off, put it aside, and he pulled over. And this but is there like an ancient, some kind of name for a horoscope expert, Laura, that because I've been trying to remember the word that he said to me
Well,
for
well,
years.
so demonologist and horse, wouldn't that be connected then? And there's
I don't
another
know.
word. I'll give it some thought while you keep sharing.
Okay. So he said, so then he sits me down. He brings over these big giant books. And I mean, they were like this, literally this large. I mean, and they were ancient, because he puts them down on the table in front of me, and he starts opening them. And there were like little swirls of dust that would rise up from these books as he would open them. It's crazy. I mean, it was crazy. And then he starts asking me details about my birth, um, in terms of, I mean, really super specific stuff about date, time, like down to the second, of when an actual birth happened. And luckily, the only person in the world that has those details, my mother, was right there. So she was able to provide those details. And then, so when he got all that timing information, he went to one of the books, and he opened up the first one, and he had to cross-reference, and it was in a language, I don't even know what language it was. It was like a language and symbols and hieroglyphs, and he did like a cross-referencing on this book. It looked like he was mapping what do you call longitude and latitude. That's what it looked like. That he was doing this with lines and rules as I was putting in the time. And then when he asked me about the geographic place of my birth, where it was physically, and in the hospital, again, my mother was able to provide those details as best she could. And that he put the second book up, and he started putting the second book, opened it, and cross-referenced it with the first book. And it was like he was measuring things to get exact location details. And then he put that all together, and then he said, okay, I'm ready to begin. And then he almost seemed like he was in an altered state, because his demeanor kind of changed. Like he seemed to be talking with some effort, whereas before he was completely smooth. And then he began, and he started saying to me everything that had happened in my life up until that time when I was 18 years old. He said to me, you've gone through some difficult times with your childhood, because and you know, and he talked about where I grew up there in New York City in a poor neighborhood, and he talked about how I was just went through one of the easiest decisions of my life, but yet the most difficult to execute, which was leaving my father's house to go live with my mother. And he talked about a lot of the conflict that was involved with that, with putting that decision into effect. And then he talked about my my brush with labor dispute, my labor dispute that I just went through, and how it came to me with a good result, because it was supposed to give me a good result. I had just been I had been working for a construction company. I had a construction accident and I got hurt, so I had to sue them and I actually won the suit. And that actually gave me money to go to school, to go to university and to law school. And so it was a really good result. And he said all this to me. He said, this had just happened. And he says, this is going to make your education much easier in the future, and you will be educated. And then he said to me, and so you're going to go into the law. And then he says, you're also going to go into law enforcement. He says, you'll go into law enforcement and you're going to have a very unique career that no one else has ever had in your law enforcement career. And he says, you're going to have some difficulties and you'll also go through some difficult times, but you will end up coming out of law enforcement with great success. You'll have an extremely successful career. And as he's going through this, I look over at my mom, and my mom, who is she's psychically very sensitive, and she was also a psychic as well. I looked over at my mom, and my mom was looking at me, and she was white with her. She was pale. Let's put it that way. She was pale with her mouth open because she knew she had not told him anything about me, that I even existed, and she was amazed with the details that he was recounting to me of my life. And then he finished telling me what else was going to happen, that I was going to leave law enforcement, and I will go on to have a more successful career, bringing messages to people that were very important, that would help them with their lives and stuff like that. It was very interesting, very inspiring and interesting. And like I said, my mom was not happy about it though, because she was, and I also felt like I was naked, because he was saying things that there was no way he could possibly have known these things. And the details that he came up with were astounding, amazing. So I was in shock. And then after that, I had to go use the restroom, and he told me all the restrooms are on the second floor. And then he said, but just don't go into that one room. So I left and went upstairs, and I yelled down to him, which room am I not supposed to go into? Because I fully intended to go into it, of course, being a teenager. And he said, oh, you'll know which one. He says, you'll know. And sure enough, I went up to the most imposing looking door that had been sealed shut. And I just got these weird feelings as soon as I went up to that door. And I tried the doorknob, and it was locked. And I just stepped back from it. And then I tried the doorknob again, and it opened right away. And the door just right away opened.
Wait,
I went in there.
Uh-huh.
It was locked. It was completely locked. And I couldn't. And I just walked in there, and it had these antique things, and it had all these awards in there and things related to demonology. It was his wife's room. And I started looking around, and I saw those little, those kind of like those little swirls of dust that I had seen coming out of the books. I saw them in that room, coming up out of everywhere. Everywhere I looked, those little swirls of dust, and they weren't. And then I realized they weren't dust. It was like some kind of vapor of some sort that was just creating these little swirls in the air. And then I started opening up these drawers, rifling the drawers, and I came up with a book that said, it was in Latin. And it was another giant oversized book, and it had Latin on the outside, and it said something, 𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 And I read it, and I read it, and I started to open it, and for some reason, I closed it right away. Like I closed it, I got really scared, and I just closed it, and I put it back in the drawer, and then I closed the drawer. But then I started receiving a vision right away. I started receiving a vision, and it was a vision of a woman who was doing a ceremony of some kind. And she was in a nightgown. She was doing a ceremony with candles, and there was a hieroglyph on the ground with a circle of powder all around the hieroglyph. And she was saying something to the hieroglyph. And then a cat came walking through, and it disrupted the circle of powder that was around the hieroglyph. And as soon as that happened, these giant vapors, like the little ones I had been seeing, this giant vapor rose up from the circle, and it came out through the break where the cat had just ruined the circle, broken the circle. And it just came out, and something went on the lady. Some dark shadows went all over her, and just covered her from every side. And I saw the lady scream and disappear
So that was
under all the shadows. I'm assuming it was the wife. It looked like it was the wife, but I saw that vision, and then I closed that drawer, and I got out of that room as quickly as I could and tried to seal the room the way I found it, and run downstairs. And that was my experience. And then I went downstairs and told my mom, we left with my mom, and my mom said, I am never going to be around that guy ever again. I'm never going to his house again. She said she could feel demonic spirits all over that home. And she said, whatever I saw in that room, she said, that was just the beginning of what was happening in that house, and that she would never get anything. And she actually made me search my persona to make sure I didn't even have a scrap of paper from that home. She said, we have anything, we have to get rid of it, burn it, and make sure that we do blessings for ourselves and just never ever think or talk about that home ever again, or that guy. And that was it. That was my experience.
That's an incredible story. Oh my gosh. No, I haven't heard that one before. I've heard some amazing stories in some of our travels together. I've never heard that one. That is wild. I can't wait to re-listen to this interview. Yeah, and gosh, some of the stories that you told about your own experiences as well. I liked it when you did the little microphone thing of hitting your head on the ceiling when I could get into some of this, everybody, and I know we're not going to go into too much of it, but I traveled in China with John, and he had me laughing so hard. We were sitting, we were sitting in the very front of this, conference with a whole crowd of people behind us, and they were speaking in Chinese, and both John and I were like hearing other things in the language that just sounded like something else, that it was just kind of funny, and we were kind of writing down on a piece of paper what it actually sounded like. And I'll just leave it at that. But he had me laughing so hard, I thought I had to leave. Like it's one of those kind of moments where like you literally can't breathe and like tears are flying out of your face. And he did that like multiple times on the trip, just cracking me up. But it was so funny that we were both thinking the same thing when we were hearing the language and hearing something else coming out of the language. But man, those are incredible stories. And then all the investigations you've done, and the books that you've written have a lot of those case studies, right? Which book?
Yeah. Well, that story is from my book, The Para Investigators, and I have.
Oh, you have that in your book, the story you just told?
Yes, that story is in there because I always want to share these stories so that people can tell me if they've had similar stories. Because I always get people who say, yeah, that happened to me too, and I was also with a horoscope expert like that. And they told me this, and they told me that. And it's really crazy. I mean, I was even contacted by the young man who was involved with the original couple that this guy may have been from, the couple that did The Home from the movie with Andrea Perron. Yeah, The Conjured. Yeah, exactly. And that young man, he had very similar experiences to what I just told you with horoscope experts as well. So yeah, that's why it's important to share these stories so that people can see things from their own childhood as well, and know that they're not alone.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I've had some interesting experiences myself. I ended up just having a lot of readings, and I wasn't really seeking it out. And I ended up, I know basic astrology, and I focus more on the medical. I don't like to go into just there's certain areas that I just know not to go into. when it comes to those kind of things. And I just always make sure I connect with, the Christ energy and God source and ask permission and just come from the highest integrity, because it's a great tool in a lot of ways. But like anything, it can be used incorrectly. It can open up places that take a person into quite a level of darkness. I don't really do, readings that much anymore, but yeah, it's so fascinating to have this level of understanding as somebody in law enforcement. And so just people are very familiar with the X-Files. And so when people hear that, a lot of the cases that you did were paranormal and very much like the real X-Files story. Can you just share a little bit about that? And then we'll share the slides, and we probably need to close because I could definitely hang with you for hours. And I know that I am going to respect your time.
Yeah, well, the X-Files were real. At least the first season was. It was based on real case files, and so people people should bear that in mind. That's why if you go back to the X-Files and you look at the first season and then the rest of the seasons, there's a huge change. There's a huge change in tone and how they come off when you after the first season. So that's something people should bear in mind, and even the people who worked on X-Files know about that change in the tone and how it came differently. The first season has it had a lot of my cases, and they're things that are largely very embarrassing. They were very embarrassing to me, and they did not put FBI in a good light at all. And but they were Chris Carter was able to tell those stories because he fictionalized them, and that's fine. You can fictionalize them, and there's no problem at all. But it's very interesting to look at that and see those cases with that in mind, because they bring back sometimes some very painful memories. And so I'll be writing a book about that this year, and I have to get to that. So I have to do a lot less of these. I have to stop doing these conferences so I can get my new books written, Laura. That's
Oh,
very important.
oh yeah.
Okay, like you too, Laura. You
I
have
know.
to write your book too.
I know. Well,
Come on.
I've rearranged my schedule so that I'm able to do it, and I have it all there. Like I have it all written. I just have to organize it now. So it shouldn't take too much longer. There have been times that definitely forces were getting in the way. 250 pages got deleted by somebody that was helping me edit, that somehow got infiltrated, went dark, and just kind of turned on me. And just a lot of different things like that sometimes just make it hard to bounce back. It's like, but it's all fine. But I'm so
That is
grateful to
hard.
be a part of this, because I know that you have a lot going on. And so I really appreciate the fact that you decided to join us on this.
Oh,
I
it's
haven't,
going to be awesome.
yeah, I've never created like an event before. And, Augie and I just had the idea, and we're not all gathering in person anymore. And I just think it's really important that people, have this to fall back on, because when we really aren't reminded, sometimes it's so easy to just drop into, I wouldn't say a place of fear for more conscious and awake people, but a place of just, I don't know, like this is not looking good. And it just really helps for us all to stick together and come together. And so did you have a few slides you want to share before we close?
No, I just want to. I can just tell people that the case system is my basic app for investigation that I teach people, and the case system is an acronym. It's CAIS, case spelled CAIS, and CAIS stands for one cover story. You have to first attack what is the cover story, what that is being used here. What story are they using to cover what is really going on? You have to reveal and uncover the script that they are giving us and see why they want us to believe this narrative. Okay, this is one of the reasons why the case system is only appropriate in a complete deception milieu, in a completely totalitarian society, like the one that we're in right now. A in case stands for the actions of the usual suspects must then be examined. Actions of the usual suspects. Who are the usual people that work with this? Media, mainstream media. What are they doing in this case? What do they usually do in this case? Is it the same or is it different what they're doing this time? The I in case stands for identify dispositive clues. This is the hard part of the system, of the case system, because you have to use your knowledge, experience, and skills as an investigator in lieu of your experience in order to get those clues that are so strong that they determine the entire case. That's what a dispositive clue is. Then you connect them to each other and you see the patterns and the profiles and conclusions. And then the S in case stands for seal final investigative conclusion. Seal and deliver the final investigative conclusion. I have used this system hundreds of times, and every single prediction that I've ever made with these, and you've got people who have seen my conferences before, and I can say to them, and I can prove every single prediction I've ever made with the case system has always come true. Because it's like a machine, it always gives you the right conclusion, and the right conclusion will always come forward. And now the problem is the way in which it is then fulfilled, like a prophecy. The way in which it is fulfilled could be different from the way in which we believe it should be fulfilled. For instance, years ago, I used the case system and predicted that Obama would be coming back to become president of the United States, along with Michelle Obama as well. And so and I showed all the proof that showed that was going to be the case. Well, what people don't understand, people think, and people can think, oh, well, that didn't come true, so that prediction failed. Well, no. If you look deeper into it, it did come true, because what happened was that during Trump's, I think, first term, Obama actually became what the cabal calls the shadow president. He became the shadow president, and he ran an entire shadow government along with Kerry, his own ambassador, and a whole bunch of other people from State Department that ran all over the world, meeting with people that were running diplomacy after whenever Trump would leave from this foreign state of meeting, they would then run in with their own people and do something else. And Obama ran that government, that shadow government, for years over there. And so when the case system gave me that conclusion, I assumed, just like with everybody else, that it meant that Obama would be running for president. No, he didn't. What he was he was appointed by the cabal, by the elite powers in control. He was appointed as shadow president for the United States. And that's what he did. And that's what the role that he fulfilled throughout Trump's tenure, the whole time that Trump was there.
And when you say that it connects with the trafficking rings and the Clinton Foundation and all that, right?
Absolutely, it does. And I've had many other predictions that were made by the case system, that have come true, but sometimes they come true in ways different from the way that it appears that it should to us, because we have our own preconceived notions of how things should happen. The case system, for instance, predicted that China, years ago, predicted that China would be at war with the United States right now. But what we didn't, and so I assumed with everybody else that it would be some kind of military action that would occur. But no, what China did was they did go to war with us. They did go to war with the United States, but they did it with these biological agents that they used to attack the United States and the entire Western world.
And we're talking about like the 𝗓𝗏 and also all these other different tactics. Be like psychological operations and the things that, and the dark technologies, and that is how they're going to war. And then, like you said, things going on behind the scenes, the facades that we see in the fake media, and even just the whole kind of election deal. It's something much greater is going on behind the scenes, but where do you feel the positive military is? I mean, it almost seems like things are going too far. Do you feel like there should have been more intervention and that some of this could have been stopped? Because it's like, this is getting pretty bad.
Oh yes,
And then I have one more
absolutely.
question, then I'll let you go.
Okay. Let me you know what, I want to reveal something to you, to your audience, exclusively to your audience and to no one else.
Oh, nice.
Uh, there is there is a very because you talked about the positive military. Well, the white hats and the positive military, yes, apparently they are doing an extraordinary amount of stuff, but it's again, it's like they're doing back to the cabal what the cabal did to them with the Obama shadow presidency. It looks like now we are taking a page out of their book, and the military is actually. It looks like the military is actually in charge of the United States, and that Biden, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that Biden has a fake presidency. I mean, everything, the inauguration, everything was fake about his supposedly being in charge. I think they're letting him be in charge of certain small segments of the government, um, but not the military or anything that really matters. Um, because, I mean, if he were, Chinese military would be all over Taiwan right now. But the Chinese know that Biden is not really in charge at a national level. Um, but here's what I want you guys to do. There's this. There's a suspicious, and I use that word in the in a certain sense. This website that has come out recently, and it's not like some crazy conservative website, because I recognize those very very well. It's this little um, very professional, very well done website. It's called Real Raw News. Real Raw News.
Yes, I'm familiar with that one.
Check it out, because it uses like very moderate language, but it's telling us that all kinds of like wild things, like the military is really in control, and there are trials going on in Guantanamo right
No.
now,
Yeah, I
and
heard
it,
about that.
it's
I've read
and
it.
it says on yeah, and it says on there that that some nefarious figures like Hillary Clinton have just been put to sleep, have just been put to
Yeah,
sleep.
and you think that's
And
it?
it says that there were several people were there as witnesses, including President Trump. And it says a lot of other things, and then it says a lot of other things that I know to be true from other sources. Like it says that Obama, in his second term, actually used a drone, uh, a drone to blow up, to destroy a home, Hellfire missile, to destroy somebody's home, and then they had the local authorities say it was a gas leak, and it was a case that I already knew about, that it was true, that was actually true, and they're telling the whole story on Real Raw News. It's very interesting, because if you start reading the articles on there, the tone of how they talk, it's not like, yeah, and these people are evil and we gotta fight against them for free. It's nothing like that. It actually sounds like it sounds a lot like Q, actually, the writers for that Real Raw News. So you gotta and it's this guy supposedly, but it's a dummy identity of a guy, uh, the guy who actually writes Real Raw News, and it's just a very plain website. It has nothing, nothing crazy or anything firebrand or anything, it's just it's very moderate and professional, and yet they're telling us this crazy information,
Wow.
that different items of information that I have actually corroborated as being true from other sources.
But some would argue that, you know, Hillary's been a clone and she was taken out a long
Mhm,
time ago,
mhm.
and but something about that article really stood out to me, and it was in another place before its news. It was in both. It was in two different places, the exact same article. Um, I saw the other one floating around. And I did read that, and it felt like, wow, the vibration of it felt like, didn't feel like fake, actually. But I shared
Yeah,
that.
yeah, and that's
We're like,
and
no,
that
no way, that's true. No,
and I believe that's from Real Raw News through Before It's News. What you're talking about right there, and
that's
one of the
always
things
been good before it's news. Anyway, yeah.
one of the things that they said in Real Raw News is that the real Hillary has so many clones and lookalikes out there that the real Hillary actually has a marking on her body that the elites know about, some kind of marker tattoo, something like that. And so that is the only way that they were able to identify at the you know at the event to put her down. It was the only way they were able to identify that she was the real Hillary. And now they're having other members of the elites that they have arrested come in and look at the body because they're all thinking that Hillary tricked them and that that's one of her clones. But now they're being her body's on display right now, and they're actually having them come and look and see the tattoo marking that shows that she's the real deal. It's
Dang.
crazy. It's crazy stuff, but it's very interesting, and I would like your audience to check it out. Real Raw News,
Yes,
and of course,
I've shared that on my Telegram, that exact article. So
yes, but the whole site is very interesting. It has a real ring of authenticity to it in terms of the information and how the information is delivered.
I'm
So I
glad
want
you
people to check.
validated that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want people to check that out. And of course, also, I want them to go to 𝗏𝗵𝗶𝘀.com to buy books direct from the author, including the Power Investigators, where I told the story from today, and get 20% off of my books using the code FBI. Very important. And everybody should also remember Unveiling Galactic Heritage and Unlimited Human Potential and Partridge in the Pear Tree on May
I know, it's kind
16th.
of a long title. I like the one that you came up with. It's like, maybe we could change it a bit.
I like Unveiling Ascension. Let's leave it at that. And May 16th through the 18th, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. On those days, and it's going to be wild. It's going to be crazy, and I'm going to do some. We're going to do some crazy stuff at this conference and give people some great information.
Oh,
So
totally.
I'm really looking forward to that.
So happy
That's
you're
going
with
to be.
us. Yeah, we'll have panels. And I think, yeah, the title just had to do with,
It
um,
got away from you.
well, the galactic part of it, and just, you know, understanding the history, but also how it's not really in the past. It's also in the future. It has to do with human advancement. And I think some people don't really fully understand the term ascension in the way that somebody like you does. So kind of mixing up the words a little bit. But yeah, no, I love that. And I'm glad that your talk is titled that. And I think, yeah, we're going to close now. But I think just one real quick last thing. I think people are a little bit stunned and baffled at how the T-Man or others in the positive military didn't warn people or make it very, very clear that getting the jab was a bad idea. And the fact that we're going to be dealing with a lot of casualties, why is that?
Yeah.
And maybe that's just part of the greater natural
Yeah.
order, and that they wanted them, they were
Yeah.
calling them forth. And that's part
Yeah.
of a deeper agreement that has nothing. I mean, obviously the T-Man's not pushing mandatory stuff, but any
Right.
quick thoughts
Right.
on that before we close, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I get that question every day, Laura. People are baffled because, I mean, just yesterday he made another statement supporting people getting the jab, and it's and I have no idea why he's doing that, other than uh, he does never say it should be mandatory. He never says people should, but he does say, hey, those who want to do it, who wish to get it done to themselves, those who wish to give up their arm, uh, the go do it. That seems to be
Yeah.
the basis of what he says.
How do
And
you, yeah.
and there's got to be some deep reason for it. I mean, there's got to be some deep. I don't know what that is.
Well, he might be,
Just don't.
duped. I mean, there's compartmentalism. Eisenhower was, duped about things. Maybe he just didn't realize a certain amount of stuff. He did call it a miracle. He did say it was safe. I
Right.
could imagine somebody like him more saying, do your research. It shouldn't be mandatory, but it's
Right.
out there for those that want it. But to
Right. He
talk it
doesn't
up
say
so
that.
much, I was pretty surprised. But yeah,
Right.
I'm sure we'll get more clarity about that. And there might be, I think there's the weaponized version and the safe version, and there's infiltration just like with anything, perhaps. I mean, who knows, right?
It could be, but I don't. I wouldn't. I wouldn't myself take any safe version of something that does so much harm to you, and I would never recommend it, that anybody do that.
Yeah,
But
I'm on the same page with you there. Yeah, but I think there might be something to that because they were saying that the therapeutics could be considered the jab. So because he got kind of pulled out of being able to maybe help bring the clarity about because of what's taken place. Maybe there we'll find out more soon. So I don't know. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like
we will.
some people think that the positive military was able to remove the harmful parts or this or that, and there's so many different theories floating around. But the whole deal is that somebody that at least supports our freedom of choice is much better than a cabal player that are wrapped up in the
Mhm.
trafficking rings and things like that. And it's more to me about the
Yes.
movement and the awakening of people, and the fact that it's more, I see like a team of light, with
Yes.
everybody supporting each other's missions. And it was never about putting it all on one person or about, you know,
True.
what some people have interpreted it to be, for those that support or supported this administration. And you're just just one of my most favorite people ever. Your truth, your books, your knowledge, your wisdom, your freaking humor, and you're so fun to be around and so informative. And you're the kind of person that people hearing your stories, it's like let's sit by the cosmic campfire and listen to John DeSouza stories all night, because it's really, really great to hear them. And I so appreciate your time with me. And everybody check it out, the conference we're going to be a part of. I'll share all his links, get his books. What a blessing you are to humanity, and you've been such a wonderful friend too. So much love to you
Thank you,
as
Laura. You're the greatest. Thank you so much. You're the
well.
best.
Oh, thank you. Okay, take care.